Okay, guys, let's start talking about Portugal and Spain and why they were so important to European exploration. I keep wanting to say explanation. I'm sorry. So geography had a huge part of it. The Iberian Peninsula juts far into the Atlantic Ocean, and that allowed the Portuguese and the Spanish to not have to travel as far as like the British or the French or the German peoples were doing. Portugal's proximity to Africa made southern exploration a logical target, and geography played another important part because Italy's position in the middle of the Mediterranean meant it was ideally situated to be at the center of exchanges between Western Europe and the East. The ports of the Eastern Mediterranean and their sought-after goods were found there. So Portugal and Spain wanted to bypass Italian control of trade because of things like taxes and tariffs. So they began to search for alternate routes to Asia, for instance, around Africa like Portugal, and west across the Atlantic like Spain. Portugal's Prince Henry the Navigator sent ship after ship after ship down the western coast of Africa looking for a route to the Indies so that his nation could benefit from direct trade with South Asia. Along the way, the Portuguese charted the Madeira Islands and the Azores Islands, actually. And Henry had actually, in order to do this, he had actually repopulated a village that was called the Villa do Infante, or Infante. I'm not exactly sure how it's pronounced. But it was actually located on the southernmost point of the Iberian Peninsula, so it had sea access to the Atlantic and the Mediterranean. It was a great location for these, for him to be at if he's going to be the one that funds all these explorations. So in 1488, Portuguese ships reached and rounded the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, and for the next 10 years after that, Portuguese and Arab merchants would interact in the Indian Ocean area instead of the Mediterranean, where they would have to deal with the Italian merchants. This also increased trade and travel with West Africa and construction of global trading post empires for the Portuguese. And in 1498, in one of the biggest accomplishments, Vasco da Gama succeeded in making it to India and returned to Portugal with spices and other goods. And he did this by circumnavigating. And the Portuguese finally established their link to the east. But, important question, had the Spanish actually beaten them?